Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser, where we take a look at the morning headlines, the news, and kind of like look ahead to the next day as well. I have the coffee. I know it's not Monday, but I had to bring out the grumpy mug this morning once I saw the news. So we'll get to that next. We'll be kind of like browsing around, and this is what I what I really like about the news page on our website, by the way. But while the website is still moving, servers is temporarily down, but we actually even improved on the LFC news page, and it's been one of those where um we were able to like actually get more news. Alan is here with us. Good morning, Alan. And it was, like our RSS feeds would basically gather all the Liverpool news on one page, and we've actually improved on that. So once the site comes back, it's going to be even better than it was before. So it kind of like eliminates the need for now that I'm on the laptop looking at various sites for like Liverpool news. So once it's back, it's going to be even better, and we're almost there, I believe. Tim actually is helping us out with that, and we're almost there, completing the move to our new server, which should also make the sites a lot faster actually too. But aside from that, we talked about this before. I think we discussed it on the Monday morning, and as well as like the podcast. We are doing the fundraiser. I also shared it on the Discord channel as well. We are doing a fundraiser for the earthquake in Turkey. We're doing a silent auction first, and we're also working with Anfield Shop with some stuff as well. I will have to say I have been extremely happy. Sparky is with us as well. Good morning, Sparky. I have been extremely pleased. I sent out some because we wanted to have some like unique items, and we wanted to involve more people as well in this fundraiser. And I'm very happy to say that there were so many. I reached out to a bunch of people, and especially, and this is what shows like the whole "you'll never walk alone" spirits, and the love of the club and everything like that. But especially the messages I ended up sending to the UK, or Europe in general, but definitely UK. I've gotten a response from each, a positive response from each. People not only offering discounts, but actually sending items themselves. They're like, "Hey, I'll put some stuff in the mail to contribute for a good cause." So definitely very humbled and happy to see that at the same time. It's kind of like an odd feeling, but every morning I wake up, because of the hour difference, I see the messages that were sent the day before when I reached out to people, and I got some even more good news today. So hopefully we'll be able to finalize that this week and get that rolling. So stay tuned over here for more info. Sparky says it, and this is what. Yeah, while I woke up to see those messages, put a smile on my face. My face was already kind of like busted up from seeing the initial news that I saw on the phone, which is Bobby leaving. I mean, this has been a talk for a while now, and I thought this was done, man. I thought we were getting an extension. It was almost done and stuff like that. And I really think, I probably the playing time he's gotten has to be one of the bigger reasons, and the competition he's going to face to get those minutes moving forward is probably going to be another reason. But Bobby is leaving as of, this is probably the strongest information and news we've gotten. There has been a lot of news before like this that say he's leaving. Then there was other news saying like, oh, he's staying, he's signing an extension. Extension is so near and stuff like that. But this is probably like the strongest where we've seen it like in various news sources. I know like most of them are basically going after the same tweet that he actually personally informed. I've seen that everywhere, that he's personally informed club that he's leaving. I know where you guys are at with this. I would love to hear this, because this definitely hurts me a lot more than even like Sadio leaving, Divock leaving, and stuff like that. Because to me, like this team of the last 5 years, the two players that I really, really liked, and I think it exemplified, if you look at this team 20 years from now, I know most people are going to remember Mo and Mane and their goals, maybe Van Dijk and stuff like that. But I will always remember like the captain and Bobby, because I just not only admire them as a player on the field, and like that's the thing about this team that we have. We've had for the last 4 or 5 years. I think it's a lot of like good humans and very likable humans and good people, even if they're not always the best performing player or whatever. You can see them on and off the pitch that they were like good people. And I think, Sparky says Bobby was the glue. And I think not only that, I feel he kind of like exemplifies same thing with like I get the feeling with Hendo, like the selflessness. And despite getting so much crap that he doesn't have enough goals and stuff like that, Bobby would still make that pass for an empty tap in instead of taking the shot himself. He's definitely, it's kind of like a weird player, right? And I think that's going to be interesting. I know Michael was saying it on the Discord channel earlier about who would go after Bobby. I read yesterday in the Turkish news, he was like the 800th player linked to one of the big Turkish clubs. I definitely don't see that. But because he does have a unique set of skills, it's almost like a midfielder that plays striker and number 10 that plays a number 9, but he's not a number 10, but he's not a number 9. I mean, honestly, you could argue that the system has made Bobby what he is. And you know, we've always said this, right? Like Bickler says it all the time, that he's a unicorn, and that's why we were never able to like fully replace him in terms of like what he brings and what he does. But it's going to be interesting because he does not have a set of skills that is useful to every club, especially in the position that he plays. So he's not really a number 9 that most teams will look for. He's not a number 10. And obviously he's like, you know, age-wise, he's up there now. So it's going to kind of be interesting to see where he ends up. I know he's not a guy that's seen like he doesn't, because he didn't come out of the Brazilian system automatically like he was like in Germany for a long time and stuff like that. Most players you would think, oh, they're going to go back to their, you know, boyhood club and stuff like that. But I don't see that either. I feel like it'll probably be the Bundesliga that he will be the most valuable again, but it's going to be interesting to see. Let's bring this guy from his car as always. Alex, what's happening, man?
Oh, nothing much. You were just
What do you say about this Bobby news? Because I am like, it was like a gut punch. Like first thing in the morning, I was like, no freaking way. I mean, obviously it's bound to happen. These guys are not going to play till they're 80, but
right.
man, yeah, it was hard to see.
And that's what I said in chat. I was like, I was thinking about it, and I think I was more surprised. To be honest with you, I think I would have been more surprised if he extended his contract than if he said he was to leave. Because you got to think of all the players that will be picked ahead of him that are playing at Liverpool. He's not going to be playing a lot of minutes for Liverpool yet. And with the calf injury that took a long time for him to get over and missing out on the World Cup, I think that kind of just took a toll on him. And, you know, like you said, he turns 32 in October. I found it kind of hard. I could understand why Liverpool would have not extended his contract, because I guess it would be a tough sell. He would have to agree to a lot of things, like less playing time, all that stuff, less of a role at the club, all those things. And I don't think he doesn't believe it's the end for him. And I don't think a lot of other people, I don't think it's the end for him either. I still think he can be
Yeah,
at
but where would he play? I was like, before you came on, I was just talking about that. Like, you know, he's not a guy that's a typical 9.
right.
He's not a 10. He's not a midfielder. He's not a winger. So, like, where do you see him landing in this league?
Like a club.
I mean, not a specific club, maybe the location. I mean, hey, fuck, if you can give a club, go for it. But I was like thinking more like where he would be headed, where his skill sets would be actually used and utilized.
You know, to be honest with you, I think a perfect club that would be a good landing spot would be Bayer Leverkusen.
Holy
Playing,
cow, you named the club, not even the league. I just say Bundesliga as well. Why Bayer Leverkusen since you threw that out there?
I've watched a couple Bayer Leverkusen games, and you know, a lot of their MO with attacking is a false 9. And remember, Kai Havertz played a lot of false 9 under Bayer Leverkusen. Yes, that was a different system, different manager, different time, but they've had a lot of players that play that false 9 role, and I think he'd be a perfect fit there. You know, it's also not as demanding at Bayer Leverkusen. Yeah, you know, he can get away with maybe not producing goals, not at a frequent basis, and he's going to play under Javi, and I think he would. I think he would play fine, and I agree with you too. Bundesliga would be a good place for him to go to.
I think so too. I mean, yeah, Alan says probably back to Germany with Bobby, and Sparky says he wants one more contract and will probably be in MLS. I hope not. I mean, I hope for Bobby's sake not. I mean, for my sake, I hope so. Maybe he'll come over here with Shaq and play at Chicago. But I don't see it. I agree. I think he has more in him. He was, and like Sparkus is always smiling. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's one of those things that, like, you know, when you see Bobby coming off the bench, even now, he was like, "It's Bobby." You know, it's like seeing like an old friend that was always like this happy-go-lucky guy. And I will definitely miss that. Like I say, I know Mane was a great player and great memories with him as well. Was not too thrilled to see him go either. I know it's part of business and it's going to happen. You're going to lose some good players. And obviously, these guys are getting up in age. They're not going to play there at 80. But yeah, this one hurts a lot more just because when I think of Bobby, I think nothing but positive stuff. Like, you never had any drama with Bobby. You never had any issues with Bobby. And like, just a selfless dude on the field, on and off the pitch, a great dude. Yeah, this is going to hurt. And I do agree he probably does want, similar to what, like, you know, Genie had. I mean, these guys, you know, this is kind of like the last opportunity to get one last paycheck, like a good, solid paycheck. I believe afterwards, maybe that's what Sparky means. Once he gets that paycheck, maybe he will come here. Oh, is he 29 or 30 now?
He's 30. He's going to be 32 in October. That's
damn, man. He is going to be 32. Yeah. Maybe Sparky is right then. That is up there. Yeah. Unless somebody signs him to a 2-year contract. I mean, I think at this age, he will. I mean, the guy has like a nonstop engine when it comes to pressing, and Klopp always talks about how smart he is as a player, and I think that's why, like, our press has suffered a lot. Loss of Bobby is a big reason that people don't see and understand, I think, but it's a big reason when you miss Bobby. You know, we always talk about the spine of the team, right? You talk about Ali, Van Dijk, Fab. And I think Bobby is the rest of that spine there that kind of like held everything together, controlled that press, dictated that press. He was the trigger for that press. And I think we're going to miss that. And it was, I think Sparky was saying this actually like last week when we were talking, that he was an extra midfielder in some ways and helped that midfield by dropping back with the press and everything like that. And defending started with him. A lot of things, man. It's a guy that I will definitely miss a lot. And yeah, it was kind of like I said, you know what's coming. You know, Hendo will be next. Obviously, Milner will be next and stuff like that. But yeah, this one hurts. Definitely hurts. It was like a tough one to see. So apart from that, for the weekend, we have the same lineup. Not the lineup. We have the same squad available. I don't know if we will end up seeing the same lineup, but before we get to the weekends, let's set a couple of things over here. Let's start with this. I was reading this kind of like a recap of all the things that were said over the weekend. I know this is kind of like an issue that comes up with Everton all the time, and it is not really on Sean Dyche, despite I would have thought Sean would have said, "Hey, I mean, it would be nice to have a striker if I'm coming over there." Because I mean, holding your entire season on the fur coat of Dominic Calvert-Lewin is risky business. Do you think they will end up paying for this?
Well, my best friend, God bless him, but he's an Everton fan. And he's
where do you find these people? Anyway,
well, we got into soccer at the same time. I was drawn to Steven Gerrard. He was drawn to oh my goodness, I'm blanking on his name. U.S. goalkeeper with the bald head. I know what his name.
Howard.
Yeah, he really liked Howard when we started getting into soccer, and that's how that transpired. But he's convinced that they're going down. I mean. And him and I, we have a heart-to-heart conversation when we talk about Everton, and Neil Maupay is just not. It's just not good. That's a concern. I think another concern is Dyche really doesn't know who is going to be the talisman for him. Damari Gray can't do 90 minutes, like we talked about, which is an issue, and he's their leading goal scorer. They basically gave away Anthony Gordon to Newcastle. They're really, really struggling. I mean, let's put it this way: Andre Ayew picked Forest over Everton, and that, I think that says a lot. And Dyche has a big job on his hand, and I think he knows that. But not having Calvert-Lewin is really gonna it's really gonna be hard for him, especially when they can't score goals.
Yeah, I mean, that's the weird thing. See, I know Sparky has sore spots because he has, I think, like not only friends, it's friends and family that are like Everton fans. Because we talked about this last season when they were in the relegation battle, and I was all for it. I'm now even more for it because it comes as an additional bonus of getting Sean Dyche relegated as well. So I'm all for it here. And I think, yeah, it is the risky business. I mean, going into the season, I don't know what they were thinking, because when you looked at that team last year, you were like, this team goes as far as Richarlison can basically take him. Well, you move Richarlison, then you look at this team, you're like, Gray and Gordon, if they do something, they do something. Otherwise, there's no goals coming on this team. Well, then you move Gordon. So it's like, okay, dude, like you got to bring, I know like they have like financial issues as well. And that's kind of like, they had to have the money coming in, but you got to at least, go after somebody young or something like that that's going to produce. Sparky says 0-0 draws will keep them up. And I think that's basically the only hope, right? I mean, getting those goalless draws, but I don't know how many of those they will get, because even with Sean coming in, and he's a more like defensive minded dude in terms of like keeping the shape and being compact and defending well. Even then, they've been giving up goals. I mean, obviously, I know it was Arsenal and stuff like that, but even before, they give up goals. And the problem is, it almost feels like the moment they give up one, for a team that can score a goal, kind of like Sparky says, a team that's playing out for a 0-0 draw out there, obviously the moment they concede, Alex, it's almost like, oh shit, because there's no way now we're going to score two. Let's see, at least we can score one.
Yeah, and like I said, my friend told me, he's like, to be honest, at this point, I kind of want to be relegated. Just get rid of everybody. Just get rid of everybody in the club. And I think that feeling for Everton fans are starting to set in, that this year is the year. And I remember seeing something. I can't remember who it was. I think it was an interview they were interviewing Everton fans by Sky Sports earlier, and they said if they get relegated, they'll be like Sunderland. They'll go way down. And
that's why I don't understand what your friend is thinking. I mean, you don't have to get relegated to do a cleanup. I think Sean would do that cleanup if they survived. I think they made the bad move with sticking with Lampard. He was not the guy. And yeah, like Sparky says, I don't think that's a good plan, because I mean, like you're saying, I think they would be Sunderland. They would not be back for a long time, because they will have to get rid of, because of the finances there. And some clubs, like you can be in Norwich, right? Just go bounce up and down, but kind of like control your finances accordingly. But Everton has not. Everton has spent like a team that should be going to Europe every year, and they're fighting for relegation every year. So when you go down and you have those wages, you're in a lot of, world of hurt. You have to move everybody, and then you end up with like a really lame squad, and like Sparky says, and a new stadium for that squad.
I have a real question, because I don't know, but is Allen still there? Is he still at Everton? Because like he came in from Napoli, looks like a fantastic midfielder, and I don't even think he plays, because like I know Gay is very good, and I know all that, but Allen, I mean, at least can create something. I'm like, where is he? Is he even on the bench?
I don't know if he's even still there, but honestly, when he was there, let's see if he's still there. He's still there.
I mean,
he's not. He's gone. He's in. I mean, first of all, he's like 32 now, so he's getting his last check as a defensive midfielder in Arab Emirates Al Wahda club. But I think even then, I think he was not up to the pace of the Premier League. By the time he came here, he was not up to the. Sparky says he thinks he went out on loan because I don't think he was playing much anyway. Like you're saying,
Yeah.
Alex, he was nowhere to be found. But I think that's because not because he was injured, he was just not good enough.
Well, I also I didn't realize he was 32 years old. I mean, they had a lot of weird transfers. Like Gavin, remember that kid? He came like 4 summers ago, and he couldn't play in England for I think it was like 2 years because he couldn't get a visa, a working visa over in England for some reason. So Everton had to like loan him out for like 2 or 3 years until he finally got the visa, and he finally got it, and then they loaned him out again. So I mean, they have some weird transfers, and
they've done some signing. I mean, they spent a ton of money. It's just that none of them almost, I mean, you look at the squad now, almost none of them have panned out. And the only guy that you feel like made an impact was, I think, Richarlison. And they made a lot of money off of him afterwards, but it was one of those where, it can really come back to bite you in the ass. And it is. Ryan says, good morning, Ryan. Hey guys, Everton will finish 17th just to piss us off. I can see it. And honestly, their only hope is, I think, Sean, as much as I despise him and his brand, which I should talk about this, by the way, because I was watching an interview with Sean, and he was talking about when he was interviewing with Burnley and stuff like that, and like he basically adjusted his style and thought about playing like that based on where he was going, what the fan base would expect over there, like a hard fighting defensive team in that part of the country. That's what they would like really root for and get behind. And that's why he kind of like adopted that. And you would think he's not going to be able to, you're not going to come to Everton and be like, let's play some open attacking football, because there is really nobody to play it with, it feels like. I mean, you look at the midfield, there's not that much creativity. And like I said, you got rid of your best attacking guys.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
When you're depending on Neil Maupay to score you goals, and he's closer to the corner flag than the actual net, that is a concern. And I mean, I don't know what they were thinking when I think they were thinking, hey, he's available, but you have other strikers that were available. I mean, look at some of them that left on deadline day. You could have got a Danny Ings. Danny Ings went for 15 million. You couldn't fork over 15 million just to get him. I mean, there was a lot of things they could have done. I mean, get anybody on loan. Get somebody from Chelsea on loan. They could have done so many things, but their board is terrible. Their recruitment is terrible. And Sean Dyche is left picking up the pieces again. He's literally left in the same place he was at Burnley, where, hey, we got these guys, make it work. And that's what he's doing. I mean, if he does keep them up, that would be a fantastic job by Dyche again. But the thing is if they don't invest next season into like a couple strikers or a couple playmakers, they're going to be in the same fight again. So it's going to be a challenge. And I do agree with, if they get the draws, like constant draws, pumping out draws, they can survive that way. But at the same time, if a team below them, say they win one or two games, Everton's right back in trouble. So it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, Sparky has already given up. He's like, he thinks Everton will finish 20th. If Sparky's on that game, they're going down. But yeah, I mean, Ryan says, as a player, why would you even sign at Everton? Serious question. What is the draw? I think, if you are a striker, if you're Maupay, right, for example, I think the draw would be Richarlison. you would look at Richarlison and you would be like, hey, I might be able to duplicate this. At a crap team, this always goes back to even in
Mhm,
youth soccer, like we deal with this, like I talk about this all the time. You want to be the best guy on the crap team, or you want to be like an average guy on a good team. I think
mhm.
you go to a team like Everton. If you have a belief in yourself, you're like, man, I have one good freaking session over here, get some goals for them.
Yep.
Everybody else who's looking at the transfer market is going to say, this dude was scoring at Everton, for God's sakes. So he'll
Mhm,
definitely be scoring a lot for us, and your market value suddenly goes up. I mean, like I say, as an answer, that's the only reason I can think of why somebody would be like, like they don't have anything. I can only bring something in. The forward line, the attacking line is so crap that anything I do is going to look good, kind of an
mhm.
ordeal. And I think that's probably what the draw was for him. But I do agree they did have some better options that they could have signed. Danny Ings, I think, is like a great example. But that's the thing when going back. I think when you connect that thought with what Ryan is asking, I don't know if like Danny Ings sees that as that kind of an opportunity, whereas a guy like Mape would, because Ings,
Mhm,
because of his age and his history, he does not need that for his market value. Like what everybody knows what Danny Ings is going to be.
mhm,
He's going to be a good player, finisher, but maybe not reliable injury wise. So,
mhm.
his market is already set, whereas a guy like Mape might be able to try to create his market by going over there and scoring some goals. And then
Yeah.
they're like, hey, look at Richarlison. Now he's playing in well, I guess he's playing for Spurs, but still, he's playing for Spurs and he got a ton of money. So I can see like somebody thinking that. He signs Mullins from Wrexham. I don't think that's the thing. Like going back to what Ryan is saying, I don't know there would be a draw for Mullins. He's better off being like a TV star for Wrexham, for God's sakes. But
Yeah.
go ahead, Alex.
I I mean, but we do have to look at that you bring up a great point for a striker to go to Everton is a good. I mean, look at their past. You can look at their past, striker or attacking minded players. Tom Cahill, perfect example. Um, you got Romelu Lukaku, another perfect example. You got Richarlison, another perfect example. You got a bunch of examples of strikers that go to Everton and then make a career off it, then that's the draw to it. But if you're going there to be a midfielder, most likely, I guess you're going to be a defensive midfielder. I mean, we also have to we also have to agree that Idrissa Gana Gueye, when he was first at Everton, he was a very good defensive midfielder. That's why he got that move to PSG. Eventually, he came back because it didn't work out. PSG, so be it. But there are players that will go to Everton, and I do agree too. Um, I do agree with that. That the pull to Everton it's difficult.
Yeah, it's a tough sell, and it's only. I mean, it would be even a more difficult sell if they get relegated. It's going to be interesting. I mean, that is a big game. I know that's part of that press conference. Like Sean was poo-pooing that. This is a must-win game because everything is a must-win game. He plays every game to win. That kind of bullshit. But let's face it, I mean, the number of games is diminishing. You gotta get some. I know. We talked about getting the draws and 1 point at a time. One step in front of the other kind of thing, but you gotta get, especially when you play against teams you are battling, you gotta get 3 points here and there. I think the biggest thing last year, the funny thing last year was they won some games that they probably should not have.
Mm-hmm.
On paper, at least. I'm not saying on the field, but when you looked at it, they were like, there's no way they're getting points from this game, this game, this game. And you were like, this is their shot over here. So they will lose that game, but then the games that you kind of like wrote them off on paper is where they able to get points. Will they be able to do that again? I don't know. I think from the get-go, I mean, first of all, I don't know who I hate more, Sean or Lampard. Probably Lampard, I have to say, which says a lot about, by the way, Lampard more than Sean. But I think that was the mistake they did. If this was going to be the situation, going into a season, if you knew your situation was going to be selling your best attacking players and trying to make something out of what you have left, Lampard was not the guy for that because Lampard
Mm-hmm.
is more used to being able to, add and all that kind of stuff. I think Sean was your guy for that from the get-go, if that was the case. I guess to me, and going back to what Ryan is saying, I don't know what the pool was for Sean. I mean, unless he really thought maybe I can make it happen, or he thinks, well, nobody expected it to fucking happen anyway. Because here's another thing, like it's not like what we talked about earlier. If they go down, it's not like, oh, we're gonna come right back up anyway. That's a big question. Like if you went to Norwich and you got relegated, you'd be like, that's fine, we'll come back in a year or two anyway. But that's not the case with Everton. So that's going to be interesting to see. I mean, with no title race. Sparky says it's a job and money, but the Sean, I feel like he would have job and money from a different spot eventually. I mean, it's not like, he's like, holy shit, I can't pay the bills. I'm sure that Sean is in decent shape from his years at Burnley. I feel like it would be, I don't know, if we were in that situation, like, wouldn't you wait for something else, Alex, instead of jumping on a sinking ship? I know there's the pride of, or the, like, I want this challenge kind of thing. But at the same time, when you're signing a contract that's 2 years, 3 years, whatever, wouldn't you want something that's going to be like, hey, I'll survive this year, then I can use the summer to regroup. Whereas this job, you don't even know if you're going to survive this year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one, especially for a manager standpoint. I mean, look at the managers that have gone into Everton and then they went somewhere else and they were, I mean, Carlo Ancelotti is an amazing manager. But look at
which is why he ran off.
Yeah. What Silva's done with Fulham, and he was in the same kind of issue over there at Fulham, but he has done, he's done tremendous things over there with Fulham, especially this year, and Fulham looked good under his management. So it's more of like, I think he took the challenge because if I remember last year when he was fired, he was in the rumor mill for Everton, but they decided to go with Frank. And so then they fire Frank and they come back and they're like, hey, are you still interested, kind of thing? And I think he wants the challenge to put that, on his resume, because if he keeps Everton up this season, that'll look really good, especially what the things he did at Burnley. And I mean, all the stuff he did with Burnley and then the stuff he's doing with Everton, it'll look good on his resume.
Yeah, because Sparky says he has nothing to lose, and I do agree there. Like and I guess maybe here's the thing. Maybe we should look at it this way, because maybe I don't like Sean Dyche, but which fan base is going to get excited to get Sean in the off season? He's the kind of guy that might create excitement mid-season, saying, man, yeah, we need somebody who can kind of like make them play harder and play more defensive so we can stay up. I think he's a better candidate for that. I don't think in the offseason, because that's when fans were like, we want better attacking football, blah, blah, blah. And, Sean is not the name that comes to mind. So you're not going to go after Sean, or it's not going to be as attractive name to the fan base that you're going to present at the time. And obviously, this is an ownership that's trying to balance everything at the same time, the books and the fans and all that kind of stuff, and their own books. So I think it's probably a more attractive name. And honestly, of all the names they had, probably the one that made the more sense, because even if people would want their team play more like how Bielsa would run him into the ground and play, I think they knew that Sean was the only option that could maybe keep them up, like the last hope kind of thing. Like, like we'll just hang on to Sean and see if he can stay up. But before we go real quick, give me a prediction for the weekend. I am not looking too forward to this one compared to the past United games, I'll have to admit, because like we're the whole box of chocolates thing going over here. God knows which Liverpool is going to show up. And I mean, yeah, it was a decent performance on Wednesday. There's always decent signs, but then it just kind of, we get into this mode and then you get like a big flop. And I'm afraid this could be the flop. Sparky says a lucky 1-1. What do you have?
Weirdly, we have played very good against what we would call the normal top six. We beat Spurs, we beat City. The only loss we had was to United. But to be honest with you, I think it's gonna be a one. I agree, a 1-1 draw. If we pull out a win, great. That would be amazing. I would love it. Kill these title hopes that we keep hearing about United possibly getting the quadruple and the title or whatever. It's just people blowing smoke up their ass. But
yeah, no shits. Yeah,
but if we I saw a very good article. I think it was Mark Ogden for ESPN. This game versus United in Liverpool this weekend. Whoever wins it will tremendously charge their season. And I think I agree with that, because if Liverpool comes out with if they come out with a 2-0 win, that can lift the confidence of everybody at Liverpool. So, and vice versa. If Manchester United go in and win, that'll lift their confidence too. So, but to be honest with you,
I think Manchester United is coming in with that confidence. Yeah, whoever wins is a huge game, like a huge rivalry. It's a big plus, but I feel like United would be more. I mean, first of all, Ten Hag can thank us, because when he made the big changes against us, if we smash him that day over there like we had been, I think the whole plan flops. Not the Ronaldo, Maguire, like he did all those things, and by beating us at the time, he kind of bought himself more time to implement these changes. We smash him over there when he's making those changes, he's going to lose that confidence. He's going to lose that backing, and everything would go haywire. So he can thank us for freaking making it happen. But I feel like, United's win or lose, I don't think United's fans themselves believe on a quad. I think that's just like wouldn't it be nice kind of a thing, but it's not a deal. I don't think they would be like, oh shit, we suck again or anything like that, unless we really hammer them, which I don't see happening. But I think it's a bigger game for us, knowing especially like tomorrow, City plays Newcastle. So you have an opportunity this week. Again, I mean, thinking City will beat them or whatever, or at least, take points away from them. It would be a huge win for us to get into that top 4.
Oh yeah. Well, it just boggles my mind with how shitty of a season we've had. If we win this weekend, we have a really good shot at top 4. And especially back in October, even a couple weeks ago, we didn't even think that was possible. So, I mean, if Liverpool wins this season or wins this weekend, that'll look great. And I feel a little bit more confident about the game versus Real Madrid too, after I saw they lost to Barcelona yesterday.
Yeah, you're going way over the thing. Well, one at a time. I'll take the 3 points from here and continue the battle for top 4, because that's kind of like the key thing now, to be able to. I mean, you're losing a lot of players, man. I know, like, we started with Bobby, so let's finish with Bobby. But we might say, oh, we got Gakpo, we got Diaz coming back and all that kind of stuff. He was not going to get a lot of minutes, but you still need that depth. I mean, you have to replace him as well now with, if it's young, somebody with quality. Otherwise, you're in the same boat that you were. Whenever we say, when we let Divock go, everybody was like, well, it was a luxury guy that's going to come in afterwards, blah, blah, blah. But we never really replaced them, or like Taki and stuff like that. You got to be able to replace these guys that come in and contribute off the bench and be a solid squad player, because when injuries happen, you rely on these guys. And if they're not there, like they're not this year, I think that's why we struggle. We play the same front 3 over and over and over again. So don't want to run into that. But Alex, thanks for hopping on, man. And thanks to all those joining us. Like I say, hang in there for the websites, but let's get these 3 points, and will we be back Monday night, where we kind of did, none of us, I don't think, predicted 6 points from these 2 games, but that was my wishful ending to that podcast. So hopefully we'll start the Monday podcast celebrating 6 points from 2, because that would be huge in getting top 4. Alex, thanks again, man. And thanks to everybody. See you guys Monday. Take care.